What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Men, the newest film from director Alex Garland. Now, before we begin, if you'd like to see this video, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button as well as commenting below on any video that you watch, including this one. I am going to do a spoiler discussion ending explains for this video, so this will be a non-spoiler review. There's a lot to talk about with this movie. It really is. It's an interesting movie, but I will do my best to not spoil this movie since it doesn't come out till May 20th. This is a week early review. So Men is the story of a character named Harper, who of course is played by Jessie Buckley. She has just recently gone through a traumatic event where her husband has committed suicide, and she decides she's going to move to the English countryside to kind of get away, to heal, to kind of move through her grief of her husband dying, which I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but for the most part, it's pretty disturbing to watch. But she meets a character who's played by Rory Kinnear, who was actually in the recent Bond films, and she, in essence, rents the house from this guy named Jeffrey, who's the Rory Kinnear character. Well, as she starts to kind of live for a few days in this countryside of England, she starts to uncover a really kind of strange Alex Garland style story where it involves, I'm not really going to be spoiling anything here, but it involves grief if you've seen the trailers. And the things she starts seeing, the people she starts seeing, they start involving this really interesting idea about why Jessie Buckley's character is there and who she is involved with and how she is involved in the story. And it leads to down some really interesting paths that, if you know Alex Garland in his own right, you know kind of where he can kind of go with this storytelling, which is always unique. So that's the easiest non-spoiler way to deal with this story when it comes to the synopsis. It's about grief. It's about a woman coming to the English countryside to deal with that grief and the kind of the interesting horror aspects of how it kind of plays out, with especially not only Rory Kinnear's character, who has a very interesting premise to his character in general, but to Jessie Buckley's character. So I have to admit something. I am a huge Alex Garland fan. You probably heard me talk about it with Ex Machina. I didn't do a review on Annihilation because I wasn't a huge fan of that film, which it does happen in Alex, different. If you like a director, there's always gonna be one film that you don't truly like, but he's done some like really interesting films. I wasn't a huge fan of Annihilation, but that was just, I felt it was a little too obtuse for my own taste, but it had an interesting idea. It had an interesting concept. I just thought that ending was really weird. And then on top of that, Ex Machina is one of my favorite movies of the last 20 years. And then of course he did Des, which I think is a great limited miniseries on FX. And then of course he wrote scripts for like 28 Days Later and of course Never Let Go, which had Keira Knightley and Andrew Garfield. But he's always been an individual that has very interesting concepts and ideas to what he wants to play with in his playground sandbox of filmmaking and stuff like that. So when it came to Men and watching the trailer, I knew there was going to be different levels of surface material that you weren't seeing in this trailer. I knew this was going to be a very surface level trailer, and that the concepts and ideas of what an individual like Alex Garland kind of delves with was going to play out in a very unsettling, very disturbing way, but it was going to be a film that wasn't going to be for everyone. And so I got a chance to see this movie early. I was really excited because I love this trailer. I love Alex Garland. I love Jessie Buckley, who has basically become an interesting actress in her own right. Rory Kinnear has been a really interesting actor in his own right as well. And I was ready. I was excited. So I got a chance to see this early, like I said. And this movie's difficult. This movie is very obtuse. This movie is a movie that, like I said, I'm going to do a spoiler discussion ending explains because it has some interesting ideas being presented. It's a movie that literally is not for everyone. There were people that were at my screening that actually walked out because they thought it was a little too uncomfortable and boring, which, is hard to say when it comes to Alex Garland films because his films are very much never what you would call spectacles. They're very low-key. I think Annihilation was the most spectacle he's ever done, but they're more centered on the characters and the characters' place in this world. And this is very much an Alex Garland movie. It's a movie that really sets itself apart, really has some really odd, strange, just disturbing visuals, and it's just a movie that it sets itself apart for being unique. I don't necessarily say this is my favorite Alex Garland film because nothing will probably ever top Ex Machina. The ideas and the concepts that he's throwing into the Jessie Buckley character, the ideas and concepts he's throwing into the Rory Kinnear character are so fascinating and so lucid and so just strange and weird, but so beautiful in a lot of aspects, that I really did love this movie in a lot of aspects. Like I said, it's not my favorite. It has problems especially when it gets towards the end, like Annihilation had. But I just felt this movie was just working itself into my soul and my heart. I felt like it was portraying some really interesting concepts about how, like I said, with grief and some other things I'll talk about in the spoiler review. But it's a movie that it takes an idea, it takes a representation, a presentation of an individual, and just throws them into the deep end in the process of everything. If you watch the trailer, you might get some of the ticks for what's going on, but it's a very interesting, intriguing movie that has some really uncomfortable moments, which I really loved. There's things that we will be kind of shown in the beginning that will have payoff at the end, and I really kind of love that. And on top of that, Jessie Buckley is absolutely fantastic in this movie. The stuff she has to deal with, the things that Alex Garland makes her go through, are absolutely riveting to watch. Rory Kinnear also plays really well off Jessie Buckley's character. He's a guy that, because of, I can't spoil his character, has some really interesting motivations and concepts that Alex Garland plays with him. And there's some bold choices that, Alex Garland and Rory Kinnear work with that makes this movie so unique and so unsettling in a lot of aspects. But I thought Rory Kinnear was absolutely fantastic, almost on par with what Jessie Buckley's doing. Jessie Buckley's the main character. I just think the way they wrap around the story and wrap around the ideas of the two individuals is absolutely just mind-blowing. It really is. It's an absolutely interesting, creepy film, and it just does it with reverence and style and substance. This movie is beautiful to look at. The cinematography is as good as any film that Alex Garland has ever done. His cinematographer, his composer, his scriptwriter, I'm assuming he wrote the script, but everything about this movie just completely works. But like I said, if I had a negative, it's once again the ending, which goes into such... It has a purpose and idea, but it feels so obtuse and difficult to understand sometimes that you start to get a little bit lost with the idea, and the visual fidelity is so disturbing, I guess you could say, that you really can just kind of get lost a little bit in kind of what Alex Garland wants to present. But you know what he's trying to present. If you think about and you look at it closely, maybe go see it a second time, you can kind of see why the ending is the way it is. And this is the same thing with Annihilation. But I never felt Annihilation really worked in its ending. I think this ending works a little bit better, but once again, it really has that... Maybe I'm a little too self-indulgent with myself that I feel like I can get away with this, and it's not going to make the audience want to like your film very much. But the people who really enjoy what Alex Garland does, even in Devs, the stuff he creates and what he writes and directs and so on and so forth, it's that type of movie. It really is a movie that, you have to work at it to think about it. It's a thinking man's movie. And the ideas that you think about what the movie is presenting are really surface level storytelling aspects, and there's much, much deeper and darker aspects being at play. But overall, to kind of conclude this non-spoiler review, I definitely like this movie way better than Annihilation. This is top tier Alex Garland. It's an interesting story. It's only an hour and 40 minutes, but it has a lot of language. It has graphic content. It's just a completely disturbing movie if you think about it, when you look at what it's trying to present, what actually the visuals are being presented. But I think under the surface, in the kind of deep, dark logic of Alex Garland, it's a beautiful movie, and it really shows the beautiful nature of just the style and substance of what's being presented. And makes me want to stay away from creepy English countryside, I guess. But I joke about that, but it's just funny how every time you go to the countryside, you look like American Werewolf in London, and it's just like, maybe I should just stay away from there. Maybe I should just stay close to London. But then again, London involved, 28 days later, so maybe I should just stay away from England. I kid. I love you guys from England. I really want to go to the UK. So anyways, that'll do it. That'll be my take on this non-spoiler review of course, Men. If you like Alex Garland films, you'll definitely love this movie. So with that said, comments below. Let me know if you're interested in seeing this movie. Do you like Alex Garland? What's your favorite Alex Garland movie? Otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button, and as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.